Okay, so we're recording now. So, hi, welcome Peter, welcome Richard. Thank you for joining this She Leads in Tech session on the importance of allyship for women in tech. So, on this session, we've got both of you here to tell us all about your views on allyship and why it is important for women in tech to both seek out and engage allies, and also vice versa, why people need to support and engage women in tech in their own journeys. So we're not going to introduce you because we've got only 30 minutes to discuss the topic, but we've got both of your bios, and I welcome anyone watching live or catching up as we call this session to read your impressive profiles that you have shared. I just want to say thank you for making time to attend this, and I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
It's a pleasure to be there. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for
Thank
inviting us.
you. Thank you. So I'll start with our first question. What does allyship mean to you? And I'll come to you, Peter, first.
Yes, allyship, I think, is about supporting each other and identifying, when someone needs that support and to kind of build that trust and confidence. And allyship, it's wider than just tech, but there's certain industries and certain areas of those industries that need it more than others, especially in the tech world, because it, I guess, has been very male dominated, and it is difficult for women to have their voices heard sometimes. So I think it's really important that allyship can help women have their voices heard, and little things, practical things that that the male population can do is things like if women are being talked over, that it's called out, that women have as much right to have a voice as men, and it's then stemming into the kind of ED&I space around the diversity that that women can bring to the table, ideas, difference of opinion, and that always gives business benefits through productivity, through staff retention, and through creativity. So there's really no cons about having allyship. There can only be pros. I think it takes prompting and reminding, and probably education as well, that it might be not thought of or seen or even recognised by some people, but it's definitely a barrier that needs to be removed.
Thank you, Peter. And Richard, what about you? What does allyship mean to you?
Well, I think I do agree with a lot of, in fact, all of what Peter has been saying, so I'm definitely not going to start repeating all that. But I think it's more about the responsibility as well of how you behave, as someone who has got a level of a responsibility or leadership within an enterprise or a business, is how you handle that responsibility, what goes with that. And in this particular case, is how you use that to enable women, around you, to actually be heard and, be able to fulfill their role and get equal chances at addressing the challenges that are there. And, try not to repeat so much what Peter said, but, you have as an individual the responsibility to call it out when you see it, but it's not going right. But also, I think, in terms of allyship, you have to understand that, we are behind. Yes, we are not where we want to be. And therefore, by just letting it go along is not going to make, for me, acceptable progress. So you have to actually proactively try to push these things and try to make things happen so that you can help change happen quicker at the end of the day, which is what we want.
Yeah, I guess that leads into the next question. Sorry for talking over you, Peter, which is, why is this an essential thing for women in the tech industry? I guess from some perspective, it might be that the jobs available, anyone qualified is welcome to apply for most jobs and get the job and all of that. So why do we need this extra step around allyship to help women get ahead in the tech industry? Who
Should I
wants
go
to
first
go
this time?
first? Yeah, yeah, you go
I'll
first.
go first this time. Okay. I think it's very important, and that for this to happen. And for me, based on my experience of having women as engineers in my team, I certainly notice a slightly different approach to thinking, a different way of thinking, a different approach to problem solving, a different approach to handling conflicts within teams and things like that. And that goes back to me to, at the end of the day, this belief that having different approach, having diversity within your team, within your environment is a positive thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I have a lot of strong beliefs about that. I think today, as engineers, we feel we have to solve much more complex systems and solutions, going back 20 years, and it's only going to get more and more complex, yeah, that we have to do. And to think that one engineer can solve it alone, I think these days are gone, yes? And if you are simply going to go along and bang on the table and say, this is my way, this is how we're going to do it, these projects are going to fail at some stage because you need the input, the ideas, the innovation from everybody around you. And to have people who approach things differently, I think is a great advantage to have. And to have this opportunity is one thing, but you have to take the time to listen, promote those ideas, encourage them, and it's all about giving people this chance to advance, and having women doing that, helping doing that. I think it's a great advantage. But the business will benefit as a result.
That's fantastic. What's your view, Peter?
Yeah, kind of exactly what Richard says, and just to extend and complement that is around everyone has different experiences, and women bring a lot to the table through experiences that men won't have, can't have, or haven't had, and you're only getting half of the picture. If you've got a room full of male engineers, they'll have a very maybe distorted view of the world without having women at the table to kind of have that difference of opinion maybe, or a different experience, and kind of the different traits that women bring. You're going to miss out on that. And I think any organization that doesn't embrace having kind of women in tech, or kind of support them in the tech world, I don't think will survive very long, because the way that the world is going, and they'll be left out. So there is real business advantages, and it's not all about kind of business kind of advantages and revenue and profits, but there's lots of reputational intangible kind of benefits that can come with all of this as well. So it shouldn't really be a question. It's unfortunate that we have to talk about it, but
Yeah, indeed.
I think, like Richard said, we're a long way from where we should be, and we should encourage children and kind of people that are leaving school, girls that are leaving school, to kind of embrace going into tech, and there shouldn't be ever a question as to whether they're the right sex to be going into that industry. It shouldn't be right, and if people condone that, then they're part of the problem.
Yeah, and I suppose it's good you call that out, because although we shouldn't be in this position, we are here, and all of the stats, and I guess it's beyond the stats, as the stats and reality tells us, this is the case, this is where we are. And a thought that's been playing in my mind around the conversation of allyship and where women are in tech in general is around if we only have half the demographic represented, then we only know half of the problem. So there's a part of where we're missing that wider view on what the challenges are. So we don't know what half of the problems are, and then we're only getting half of the solution to the problems that we do know. So I think this is a great topic, and it's great to hear your views and how strongly you feel about why allyship is needed. But then it leads me to the next question of, what does good allyship look like? And maybe Richard, you start on this one this time.
Okay. What does good look like? Well, I think it's going back for me to a principle that with any role that you have within a business, you also have responsibilities,
Mm,
and doesn't matter what level, whether you are the top CEO of a company or just somebody who is a team leader or an engineer who is a member of a team. Good
mm,
allyship is about making sure that you call out when things that you see are not right when it
mm,
comes to women not getting a fair voice with like that. And even if you're not the person who can make the decision to change that, I think it's important that we call it out, that we talk about it.
mm-hmm,
Okay. And I understand certain environments are more difficult for this to happen, clearly, but by talking about it, and it doesn't have to be done in a controversial way or anything like that. You
mm,
just have to have a conversation.
yeah,
Yes. Because you need to bring everybody on board. Some people will move quicker than others,
mm,
but I think it's better to do it in a positive way by having the conversation and find that about. And I think from there, the things to do. And if you get the chance, to make things happen, take
mm-hmm.
it, make it happen, and explain to people around you why it's important that we make it happen if it's in your
Yeah,
hands.
thank you. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, exactly. Behavior breeds behavior, and I think if you can kind of call poor behavior out, have the confidence to do that, and be polite about it and constructive. Hopefully, that will then resonate through an organisation, or at least it will make a point of, that's not accepted behaviour in
Mm,
not only the organisation but in the culture that we live in the UK.
mm,
Something that it's not a global kind of playing field that's level. It's
mm,
different parts of the world have different views, but definitely in this country, it's not tolerated. And if you allow it to be tolerated, like I said before, you're part of the problem. So it needs responsible organisations and people in those organisations to have the courage and to learn about the topic, to learn about
mm,
experience, and to see firsthand, where women may have been talked over, or there's this term. Is it mansplaining, where you can't dumb something down because it's a woman?
yeah,
It's like, why are you doing that? So it's about seeing those behaviours, calling them out, and trying to understand why someone feels that they have the right to talk over a woman or have to dumb down technical information for a woman that's probably got more qualifications than they have. So yeah, there's little practical things that can be done very
mm,
easily, very politely, that hopefully will change the behaviours.
yeah. And I guess behaviors is such a tricky thing, right? Because I think of the word herd mentality, where we're all together in a set of defined patterns of behavior. And in the workplace, I think even as a woman, sometimes it's difficult to call out something wrong, even though
Mm.
something wrong has happened, because also in my subconscious, I feel this is the norm. So yes, it's wrong, but it's the norm. So where do I go, and what do I do with it? So I think in terms of trying to understand what good allyship looks like, I think it's something that can be quite tricky if both as a male colleague, or if you don't identify as male or female, because that's also another dynamic in the conversation. But you want to support someone, and you are in a culture that doesn't just recognize any of it. It can be quite difficult to start to call these things out, right, and start to gravitate towards the recognition of what good needs to look like. So I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that angle.
Yeah, I think that is where you need to seek out an ally within that
Mm,
organisation and build that trust and respect that you have got someone there to support you,
mm,
because that will then hopefully create more allies, and the kind of population of allies for women in the organisation will grow, because they can see that that firstly it's needed, and then secondly that there's it's a positive step, and it's a positive thing to have, because hopefully that will then create women to have more confidence and be able to speak when they want to, and should be able to, and to have their voice heard, and that will then reap rewards for everyone. So I think exactly right. The whole title of this podcast is around what good allyship means. I think the first starting point is to seek out people that can be an ally for you, work together, and kind of learn from each other as well. There's lots of things that each can learn from each other, to broaden horizons and educate each other as well.
Yeah, and that leads nicely into the next question, which is, why do I need to do this as a woman in tech? Richard, can you share some thoughts on that?
Yes, and I think first of all, I think to some extent, going back to what we were saying earlier, I think it's a little bit of a shame that people have, women have to do that today, but I think it's a reality of things. And why is it necessary? I think, yeah, it's because of a reality of where we are today. Not everybody, and I think, in a lot of cases, not deliberately, but not a lot of people, consciously are aware of the fact that some things are not right, some things are not happening the way it needs to happen. And I think for women to deliberately seek and engage with allies, try to help bring that out, through having the right conversation, can bring some people on board who, they realize, oh, actually, there's a point here. I didn't mean for things to be like that around here, but, she's right. It is like that. And that will do that. I think it will do two things. Yeah, it will, one, put the subject on the table and have that discussion. Yes, and two, bring awareness to those, with these that conversations are having. At least get them to think, is it really how you want things to be? Yeah, do you realize the impact it's having on others by by things being like they are right now? Yeah, so basically it is necessary, because just to put the subject on the table and have it discussed.
Yeah. Peter, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it shouldn't be something that's hidden away. That if you're an ally of a woman in a work setting, then you should be deliberate in that fact that it has to exist. There's some companies where you probably wouldn't need allies as strong or as many, because they see that this is a problem and they're doing things proactively about it. But there's probably some businesses out there and ones that I've even experienced, where you probably need a lot of allies because of the culture and the behaviours that may be ingrained or never addressed. I think it's a good indication if there's many allies in a company, that there's systemic issues that need to change. If there's not much need for an ally in a company, you would then say, well, they're probably getting a lot of things done right first time proactively. So it's an indicator, I think, and we shouldn't be ashamed of having allies, and it shouldn't be something that's hidden away from people, because I think it speaks volumes. And hopefully we won't need many allies, because there won't be the need for them. But unfortunately, where we're at the moment.
And I guess no one goes around with that hat that says, I'm an ally or mentor or sponsor. So I just guess, is it, when you look for an ally, I almost think of, you need to have like a shopping list. Who is your person in the room? Who is this person that can really speak up for you? And I guess particularly in senior management, because I feel there is a reward and recognition element, because if you're seen to be doing the things that are beneficial to the business, and automatically everyone kind of talks about you, promotes you, and there are accolades about what you do. But then if you're not seen to be doing these things, and nobody knows, for example, you built a code which fix the problem in the system. Those are the kind of thing people may not see, and women themselves might not be keen, and she might just think, well, I just did my job, I built the code. But then if no one sees it, no one celebrates, no one advocates, like no one knows
Mm.
about it. And so I think, yeah, I get why it's necessary. And for me, it's about having someone who can promote you and talk about the things that you bring to the business that might not be obvious.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is definitely a personal preference of kind of
Yeah,
matching. So, there needs to be that kind of, uh, is it going to work for us both?
yeah,
But again, it's small things like if I'm in a meeting and it's completely dominated by men and there's not a woman there, it's something that should be called out as to, is it a conscious decision that a woman's not here, or is it, there was
Yeah.
no one available, or whatever it is. But there's just little things that maybe we just need to open our eyes up to sometimes and question, and just remember that yeah, that there's many good things that can come of having a completely diverse, inclusive, and equal playing field and environment to work in.
Yes.
And I think everyone wants that. So
Absolutely.
I don't think
yeah,
you can complain or argue against it. It's just having the courage to point it out sometimes, I think.
yeah. No, that's good. So, but if I ask a question, where and when can allyship begin? How would you respond to that?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I think it can, to be honest, I think it should begin at any time, anywhere. There's always, from speaking from my personal experience,
Mm-mm,
there's nothing wrong with having a good ally. You can always use one. It doesn't matter where you're in your career, where you are,
mm,
in which environment. I think it's all as a strategy. It's always good, from a career progression point of view, to have allies. For the reason that you just talked about before. To have people who can be your voice for the things that you achieve.
mm-hmm,
And be there, to speak on your behalf if you're not in the room,
mm-hmm,
basically. Yeah.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter at what stage you are or where you are. I think, it should always, be there. So I think it should begin, yeah, right from the start.
Mm. Yeah, I
we
don't
share
think
those yeah we share
there's,
those thoughts, Peter.
yeah, I don't think there's a start or end point. It's just should be something natural, and the allyship. Sometimes you'll need a lot from that person. Sometimes you wouldn't need much, but it's just someone there that's in the background a bit, kind of just a critical friend to have.
Mm-hmm,
Like Richard said, someone that can, speak on your behalf if you're not there, or just remind people that there's someone missing at the table, or like the classic example of being spoken over, because a male voice is louder than a woman's voice. That's not the case.
yeah,
Again, some people just need reminders. So that allyship can just pop up when needed, and then might not be needed until the next time. So I think we need to be mindful that it doesn't become too formal and
yeah,
kind of too rigid and regimented, that it's just a natural progression of someone looking out for someone else. Kind of what I started from is, everyone's human. We all
mm-hmm,
need support. Some people need more support than others. So
Yeah.
it's something that should be quite natural. Doesn't officially start, doesn't officially end. It's just something that we need to be conscious of,
yeah.
and act for each other.
Yeah, but I think with the need for this to be natural and in a way organic in its shape or form, you miss that formality around this, and I think it's always essential. I guess for any change, there has to be a driver or a sponsor for it, even if it's something people decide how they want to implement or shape themselves. So I guess it's just important to ask the question, why should organization promote this? If it's something that is informal and people can do it because that's the expected behavior, and maybe the question is, does an organization need to promote this for allyship to happen?
Yeah, I think I don't know whether it's promoting it. It's just allowing it as a thing to be accepted. That should it be needed, then that's fine. It's something that is required, and again, it's kind of personal preference. It might be that one person needs it more than another, but it should be a safe space, and it should be something that's allowed rather than promote. Kind of makes you think of a poster on the wall. Allyship here. If you want to do something like this, you can do it. Yeah, it is. I think from a business and an organisation point of view, it's something that should just be accepted, allowed, and given an environment that's safe to have that. Definitely no one would ever get penalised for it or get down marked for it or anything like that. It's that, and if you were in an organisation like that, then maybe you should question whether that's the right organisation for you. But yeah, I think it's just allowing it to be a thing.
Thoughts, Richard?
Yes, I think at the end of the day, change is never easy. Yes. And to make things worse, some change are even more difficult than others. Yeah. And I think sometimes you have to realize that some external factors needs to be in place for what change to happen, because by itself it will either not happen or take too long to happen. Yeah. And it's not something as an organization you're prepared to accept. And if that is the case, I think you have to take some steps, to make sure that, for example, allyship is there, to help those who need their voice to be heard, to help them in that process. Yes. And promote, I think, is an interesting word, because I think it's back to what Peter is saying, how much do you want to do it I was going to say aggressive, maybe aggressive is not the right word, but it's something which, in a heavily proactive way or in a more subtle way. I think it's very much dependent on the organization and how the culture in that organization is today. And clearly some will need more help than others, because we all have work in companies where the culture is much more open, much more encouraging compared to others. Yes. So I think depending on where that organization is on its journey itself, they'll have to decide how much of it is required or not. Yeah. But any help, anything to encourage positive change is always welcome. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Richard.
I mean, there is something that I kind of picked up on from what Richard said. There's probably education and techniques that could be provided by an organisation, such as like coaching and mentoring and reverse mentoring maybe. The organisation can support in many ways to help an allyship kind of succeed and be successful. Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I think that's an excellent point to wrap things up. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. There's certainly a lot to take away and reflect on why allyship is important for women in tech. And I just like to say, if you're watching this live or you're catching up either on our podcast or webinar, please do ask questions, and we'll be happy to respond and help you get on your allyship journey, either as a women in tech or to support women in tech. So thank you very much, Richard and Peter, for being here today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.